It's no secret to anyone out there that going to school is stressful. Adults always try telling you that you have no business being upset or feeling overwhelmed in school because quote-unquote the real world is much worse. But honestly, life as a postgraduate adult is so much easier than the hell that is any form of school life. Fuck man, even going to college felt so much better than any schooling experience I ever had prior. Who knew having some modicum of freedom and self-reliance could actually make you feel like a human being? Hey hi-ho out there to all my big brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles, and of course, mommies and daddies. I'm Mark. Today, I'm not gonna be giving any tips or tricks for school survival since so many videos on that already exist, and I also, never really got to the point of feeling okay while at school. I mean, one of my teachers took to calling me Weeps because I was under so much pressure between an ongoing family death and school that I broke down almost every day in the classroom. So I'm sure I would not be a good source to get any sort of that info from. No. Instead, today I'm going to be sharing a story that somehow became even more stress-inducing to think about after I graduated. Now, just as a warning, this video will contain potentially triggering subjects of bullying and school shootings, so please keep that in mind as you continue onward. If you don't think that you can sit through this video, that's no problem. I'll see you in the next one, and I hope you have a great day. Take care of yourself. So, as a little backstory, I was homeschooled until the 4th grade. My mom was an amazing teacher, and our school district wasn't really the best anyway, so my parents wanted to make sure I got a good education. The only reason I started going to public school was because I thought it would be fun. Like an idiot. My sister already went to this school, which I will not be naming because I don't want to get sued, and I always heard really good things about teachers treating her nicely because she was well-mannered and smart from being homeschooled, and how she'd made a lot of friends. Like, the principal literally used her as a poster child of how good the school was, even though none of her progress or accomplishments were even thanks to the school. The only reason she stayed at the school was because she made friends with some really cool kids during her yearly standardized tests that she would have had to take there anyway. Teachers loved her and treated her like some pillar of amazingness, after they got past the fact that she was just genuinely a good kid and not, putting on an act. And other students liked her because she was nice and had a great personality. Not that she doesn't still act nice and have a great personality, but, I was lonely and wanted to make new friends of my own. And I thought I would have the same warm welcome waiting for me. But I did not. My 3 years at that school were a living hell. I was bullied relentlessly, which included a girl who punched me in the back during math class because I asked her to stop kicking my chair, some kid that always stole my food that I bought because they were just so much bigger than me, and of course a teacher who said it was just because they liked me. Another kid who literally masturbated in class and would put his fucking pubes on my goddamn notebook, and a teacher who just deadass had it out for me and would write me up for things that she openly let other kids do or that I just did not do. Remember those daily breakdowns I mentioned? I'm not a weak person. I'm just I literally couldn't go to the bathroom in that school without some bitchy shit kid coming in and making fun of me for using the bathroom. And I still have anxiety to this day of being perceived while in a public restroom from it. It's not like I was just weak because I was homeschooled and that made me a target for harassment. I mean, back then, I was still figuring out a lot about myself, and I'm sure that made me fun to harass too. I was weird. Nice and a good friend, but weird nevertheless. I was easy to fuck with because I had a high tolerance for taking bullshit and I never lashed out. Well, okay, I lashed out by crushing baiting kid's dick with my textbook one time, but that was the end of it. But instead of, referring someone obviously in mental distress to one of the many school counselors, I was told that I needed to grow up and stop crying. I needed to be the bigger person and ignore the bullying. Forget the fact that it was a teacher who was partially responsible. I needed to deal with being hurt by myself because I wasn't poster child material and thus not worth protecting, as I later learned that they did for my sister so that she would never have this experience. But after all these years and all the abuse that has just faded into painful memories, one thing still stands out. Not as painful or hurtful or anywhere near as scarring as years of bullying that, hey, at least made me a cool, no nonsense, do no harm, take no shit sort of guy, but as something genuinely dangerous. I didn't understand it at the time, but thinking back on it really gets me fucked up. Let me tell you about the time my teacher technically got the whole class killed. This happened in the 6th grade, so while I was between the ages of 10 and 12, the year was 2007, and the tragedy that is the Virginia Tech shooting had just occurred. For anyone out of the States or who just doesn't know, this was an incident where an undergraduate student at the Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University murdered 32 people and left 17 wounded after entering the school with 2 semi-automatic pistols and the intent to do harm. This rocked the entire nation, if not the world, because at the time, and still to this day, it was the largest school shooting in United States history. This, of course, made even our little down-home Tennessee junior high amp up security, which mostly meant that they installed metal detectors that were often unplugged half the time and had pat-down searches, during one of which a classmate of mine said that the vice principal patting him down stuck her hand in his unmentionables, which, I don't know, didn't seem right to do to a 12-year-old boy, but whatever, I guess. They're the ones in charge. However, one other security measure that they implemented at this time was random active shooter drills. These were really some of the first of their kind. Like, I'm sure Gen Z kids have experienced all too many of them at this point, and thinking about that as an adult makes me really sad. I'm so sorry you have to go through that at your age. But this all began that day with an announcement first thing in the morning that at some point during the day, there was going to be a special drill. Little me thought that was weird because they never did that with fire drills, but I also appreciated the heads up, so I knew to keep my stuff as packed up as possible. An announcement like that is also pretty prone to making everyone fairly uneasy. Like, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and you're not sure what sound it'll even make. Then it finally happened. We were in 4th period social studies with the name changed, of course, Miss Jiraiya. The alarm began to scream, and the intercom blared something like, "This is an active shooter drill. Remain calm and follow your teacher's instructions for active shooter situations." And the alarm never stopped beeping. We could hear the teachers in neighboring classes calling their students to help blockade the door and to go hide in a closet. It was scary to hear, but a little bit exciting. Some students in my class started to get up from their desks, but Miss Jiraiya interrupted and said, "What do you think you're doing?" We all looked at her confused, and she told us, "Oh no, you're not stopping that work for a drill. You are far enough behind as it is. Let the others act a fool and keep your eyes on your dang work." This was all of our first active shooter drill. And even if we were children and not up to date with the news, we still knew about the danger of going to school at this point. It had been driven into our heads by everyone around us. But it's also not like we could go against her. We couldn't even carry out the drill on our own or go through the motions because we didn't even know what to do. One of my classmates raised her hand and asked if she could just tell us what to do instead. And Miss Jiraiya told us with an eye roll strong enough to be palpable that if something like this happened, to turn off the room light, lock the door, and go hide in the closet. Another classmate piped up and asked what we should do in there since the closets didn't lock. And even if the door opened inward, which wasn't standard in every classroom, there wasn't anything heavy to stack against the door to stop someone from getting in. She said that the bigger boys would just have to sit in front of the door to block it. We were all very uneasy. Drills are supposed to teach you what to do so it's not scary or new if the thing ever does happen. It's supposed to train you by going through the motions. And there we were, sitting at our desks with the light on, trying desperately to focus on the social studies worksheets that she'd given us. A few minutes passed of nothing but assignments and usual classroom silence. But then there was a very sudden and very loud bang, bang, bang on the classroom door. Miss Jiraiya had already gone and locked the handle, and it jiggled a few times. And in the hallway, we could hear the hall and lunchroom guard, Mr. E, grousing something along the lines of, "Come on, man, what are you doing?" This stirred everyone up, but Miss Jiraiya told us to settle down and get back to work. And even though personally I was a little scared about what was going on, I was just more confused. My classmate again chimed in and asked if we could participate in the drill still, and it was obvious that she was shaken up. But do you know what my teacher said? Her words have been burned into my mind since the day it happened. Because she said, "You already failed the drill. So, unless someone actually gets shot, you better get your head back in that work." And that was that. Nobody brought it up again, and we got back to our assignment. Later at lunch, I told my friend from a different class what happened, and she looked, obviously appalled. Which is really a funny look for an 11-year-old girl, but then she said that she hadn't heard of any other class ignoring the drill like that. And that was less funny. We were kids though, so we thought even with everything that we were the lucky class. Of course, one of the other lunchroom monitors came and, vaguely chided the entire lunchroom about not following the drill, and it's I mean, man, we had no choice. If we could, we would, but literally our teacher didn't let us. It wasn't until a long time later that her words really hit me. I realized that when she said we failed, Miss Jiraiya really meant that we died in that scenario. And no matter how much she stressed it that it was us that failed the drill, it was her that killed us. I'm not sure if anyone reported her to the administration, being that we were all small children, but thinking back on it, I do hope that she got at least some sort of penalty. I never experienced another drill like that because it wasn't long before we had to move from Tennessee out to the ranch where we live now. But if she's teaching still, I hope she hasn't made that mistake again. I hope other kids got to at least learn what they need to do in those drills. And I hope that her negligence never got anyone hurt or killed. The moral of this story is that people who are in positions of authority are not always right. And if you are ever in a situation like this, and the age range on my videos is 18 to 30, but hey, if a kid ever follows me, please listen to this. If a teacher or someone that you're supposed to trust because they are an adult in the situation ever tells you to go against something that you feel is wrong, like in your gut, or directly goes against something that someone who is higher up than them has told them to do, you need to tell someone. Tell your parents, tell someone at the front office, or even just tell another teacher about what happens. It's really important to be open and express when these things happen. So hopefully they don't ever happen again. But with that, I'd love to hear what you think. Have you ever had an active shooter drill? Did you ever have teachers that made you skip out on a drill or other event? I sure know some classes that got held back from pep rallies. I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want. As always, you don't have to, but we're close to a new milestone. And hey, if you do, I'll get to see you in the next video. I hope you have a scrabdangulous day. Stay safe. Later, skater. I'm sure I wouldn't be a good source. Source. Sauce rhymes with horse. Source.